was an interesting signing because this is what I know about the Achilles injury. For older players, it's almost a nail in the coffin. I watched Todd Pinkston, one of my former players, teammates, go through Achilles injury at 28. And he never came back to play again. Obviously, skill set is a little bit different as far as Todd and Demaryrius, but it's hard to come back from that. We know that it's a 10 to 12 month injury. And so with him getting hurt at the end of the season, to me, for the Patriots, this is a long-term play. This is an end of the season, going into the playoffs type of play. I think it makes sense for maybe a couple of playoff games, things like that. But I think it makes more sense. You get a veteran champion, Super Bowl champion in your building. That's what this is going to help. I think the Patriots find a way to draft a bigger receiver. I think he can guide and mold and help teach a bigger receiver and what Josh McDaniels wants in his offense because they played together in Denver.
So we have seen in more recent times, obviously, Richard Sherman pop his Achilles and come back and play the following season. Now, he wasn't the Richard Sherman of old, but by the end of his first season back from the Achilles injury, he was actually quite good.
Yeah, he had a good season.
He had a good, and so it took him a little bit to get going, but I thought he played well this year, and I think Pro Football Focus agrees with me in that regard. Now, for Demaryrius, the question for him is twofold. One is, how long will it take him to recover from the injury? The other is, pre-injury, how good was he? How good was he at this point in his career, post-Peyton Manning, north of 30, when you have seen when they had Peyton in his prime, Demaryrius was statistically one of the best receivers in the league. 3-year stretch, averaging 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns a year. And then it just ticked down year by year. Went 1,300, went 1,000, went 950, and then last year on 2 teams, 670 yards. He has 3 games with more than 100 receiving yards in the last 3 years. That was before he was coming off the injury. So my question for you, C, is if he is limited at this point in his career as the receiver, what else does he do for your football team?
Well, he does nothing from a special team standpoint. So Bill Belichick, yeah, he does like a player, a veteran player that's played at a high level, but he likes players that are versatile. He likes players that have some variety to what they do. As a wide receiver, he likes guys that will play special teams. He likes guys if they can play the slot. Now, they don't have a proven tight end. They don't have a proven outside wide receiver, so they are in search. The only way this works is 2 ways. Is if they keep him on the PUP roster until after 8 to 10 weeks, and then they're able to activate him then. I'll be shocked if he's on the roster. Or if they decide to, picking up on the point that you made, if they decide to draft one of these big receivers, if they decide to go with the DK Metcalf, Demaryrius can be very helpful in helping him get up to speed from an NFL standpoint because of the information he has with Josh McDaniels. Now, if that's what they're trying to do, then I'm all aboard. But I don't think he helps them out when they start the season. There's 2 tough places to play with an Achilles injury. The number 1 toughest spot is defensive back, because when you're backpedaling, when you go to hit that plant, that Achilles, because it's shortened now. It's not the same length that it used to be. So you have problem doing that. So Richard Sherman coming back, that was a tremendous accomplishment. And wide receiver. Why? Because the wide receiver stance is staggered. And the maximum pressure is either on the front of your foot or on the back of your foot. So most wide receivers have bone spurs on the front, a lot like myself. I've had those bone spurs removed, but the inability to push off and burst off the Achilles becomes a tremendous problem. So there are Achilles injuries, and then there's ones for wide receivers. He didn't have a bunch of separation. He didn't have elite speed. He doesn't play the ball well off the ground. He doesn't have great hands. So Belichick's going to have to perform a miracle in trying to get him up to speed for him to play the New England way, because I just don't see it.
And we should mention, he'll only be 7 months removed from having this injury by the time training camp starts. I mean, do you really think he's a viable option for this Patriots team?
At the beginning of the season, absolutely not. I think to CeCe's point, you're talking about week 13, 14, 15, right down the stretch for them, if he's going to help you at all. I think for the Patriots, when you get a guy that has lost some explosiveness, especially with the injury, and really to your point, Nick, before the injury, he didn't have as much explosiveness. This is a long-term play. He can help you in a lot of different other ways. But I think there's a play or two in the playoffs that they want this guy for. Is there a play against a defense where you get a mismatch with a smaller corner, a third or fourth corner on Demaryrius Thomas, and you get that jump ball to him? If you can find that play that can help you win the game, then it's worth it. If not, All the other stuff, I don't see how the big moves
Brian,
work.
you know why we have you on the show now? It's because we trust you. You know the reason why? Because we got some reps with you. We saw you. We saw you in a reduced role, and then we expanded that role. How can I trust you if I don't get no turf time with you? If you're not out there at mini camp, you're not out there at training camp, you're not out there the first 8 games of the season. What I have seen from Tom Brady is, and I'm talking about with better receivers than him, Ocho Cinco, man, if guys that he doesn't feel comfortable with, man, that ball goes somewhere else and goes in a hurry. So to me, I believe that's part of the Tom Brady problem. I believe Josh McDaniel and what he says to Tom Brady is going to help him to be like, okay, now listen, this is what the guy likes to do. So I do believe that Josh is able to help Demaryus out in that situation.
But the other key here is, like almost all of these types of moves for New England, it's no risk. It's called 1 year, $6 million. No chance that's what it is. There's probably $1.5 million of active roster bonus, meaning if you're on the active 46-man game day roster, there's probably another $1 million or $2 in if you get 1,000 yards, if you make a Pro Bowl, something like that. And then a $2 million base salary with probably $500,000 guaranteed money. So it's a lottery ticket. It's low risk. But even if this does work out, Patriots need some wide receivers. They don't love drafting them.
Oh my
Man, they might have to this year because you have Julian Edelman, who, by the way, is getting older, and I know everyone is, but he is now at this point in his career where you start to expect diminishing returns. Gronk is gone. Austin Seferian-Jenkins is your #1 tight end, and he's never been great. Philip Dorsett is your second most accomplished wide receiver. Braxton Berrios is a guy you might be counting on. Like, come on. If the Patriots don't draft a wide receiver this year in the first 2 rounds, I'll be shocked because they got to find the people to play the position.
I think to your point, and we mentioned this earlier, that's why you bring them into the wide receiver room. You bring them in there to mentor. You have no other big receivers that have done it on Demaryrius Thomas's level when he was in his prime. That's why you bring him in. Help to mentor this young guy that you're going to draft.
That's why we brought you in for comments just like that. Thanks, Brian. Thanks.